If you're Malaysian, you probably know about the name Robert Kuok. You also probably know that he is called Malaysia's Sugar King. But how did he become a king exactly? And why doesn't he own any more sugar companies in Malaysia? Watch the whole video to find out. Hello investors, are you ready to elevate your portfolio in 2024? On the January of 29th, 8:30 p.m, I will be conducting a webinar called Winning Stocks and Strategies for 2024. We will be sharing with you our strategies and methods on how we made 2023 a profitable year in the stock market for us, as you can see here, and how we're taking the same strategy, doing some modifications for 2024 in hopes of repeating or improving on the returns compared to last year. Now, the only thing is there are only 500 seats, so don't miss this chance to transform your investment game. So sign up now before the seats are gone. Link is in the comments and description. In this video, I'm going to talk about MSM Holdings Berhad, Malaysia's #1 sugar company. I'll be giving a brief overview of Malaysia's sugar industry, and I'll share with you my thoughts on MSM pre and post Robert Kuok. For those unaware, Robert Kuok has been Malaysia's richest man for the longest time, 19 times out of the past 20 years. At least officially. As of April 2023, he has a net worth of USD 11.8 billion, spanning across at least 9 industries. His sources of wealth includes hotels, properties, freight management, palm oil, flour milling, animal feed, mining, finance, trading, and publishing. Check out the brief breakdown of his wealth in this picture. But he could not have dipped his toes in any of these industries without sugar refining in Malaysia. Let's talk about why Robert Kuok saw the sugar refining industry as lucrative. In the late 1950s, Malaysia was largely dependent on refined sugar imports from Britain. Mr. Robert saw an opportunity to reduce Malaysia's dependence on imported refined sugar as of 1959. He also felt confident in a way, usurping the British government, as he was very aware of Western business practices. Kuok Brothers Berhad partnered with 2 Japanese companies to create the Malayan 15 Sugar Manufacturing Company, or MSM for short. By the 70s, Kuok's company controlled almost 80% of Malaysia's sugar market, and output from his refineries exceeded domestic demand. Now, another development happened in the upstream, more specifically sugar plantations. Malaysian soil is not very good for sugarcane, and other countries like Australia can actually produce raw sugarcane at much lower cost. Secondly, because of efficiency, a lot of agricultural land, and most agricultural land in Malaysia, had been converted into palm oil cultivation. To cut a long story short, it became more profitable to import raw sugarcane from other countries than to produce it domestically. So by sourcing sugar from overseas, essentially Malaysia lost control in a way of its raw material input prices. And this will give rise to subsidies for MSM, which is a very important part in their business history. Partly these subsidies were important because Malaysia wanted to control the price of sugar because they did not want the rakyat to feel a burden. But when you put a price ceiling on sugar, MSM can't make as much money as it can, and sometimes it will go into losses, which is why the government needs to subsidize them. This is primarily, I would say, the biggest reason why Robert Kuok liked MSM and the sugar refining industry. I mean, when the government gives you money, why wouldn't you take it? So over the decades leading up to 2010, Robert Kuok profited handsomely from MSM. But by 2010, the Malaysian sugar scene started to restructure. FIRL Global Ventures bought all of Mr. Kuok's business in sugar, essentially, which meant that now FGV, FIRL Global Ventures for short, controlled the entire Malaysian sugar industry. The group that was controlling MSM by Robert Kuok, PBB Group, had to sell their refineries for roughly 1.2 billion ringgit. Now, there's a lot of speculations, conspiracy as to why he got kicked out. The truth is, we will never really know why, but here are some theories, and let's start with PBB Group itself. Now, to quote them directly, they say that the group was not forced out. They decided to sell out on their own accord because of the changing environment. Now, what exactly was changing? Well, maybe there are a few hints that I'll give you on later. Now, one popular view is that since MSM was profiteering, quote unquote, a lot from the government, many people in the government didn't like the fact that Robert Kuok was getting very rich and that he was a big beneficiary of the sugar subsidies. Like it or not, this will raise a lot of eyebrows in the political scene, and it doesn't help that a minority entrepreneur like Robert Kuok owns the refinery. So now we enter the era of post-Robert Kuok. MSM got listed in 2010, and unfortunately, since then, the fundamentals have been slowly but surely deteriorating. Now, why is that the case? For one, the Malaysian government has not increased the price ceiling for sugar for over 10 years. In fact, based on the past 13 years, they only increased it by 1 cent per kilo. That made and still makes Malaysia the cheapest in the region, as you can see from this table here. The second thing is yet another table here. You can see that the reduction of subsidies since the IPO or leading up to the IPO has been quite drastic. So I decided to pull up a chart for you to see here. Now you can see if the price ceiling does not rise and the largest cost, which is raw sugar input, going up, guess what? Net income is also not going to do well. So if I can summarize everything, if your earning capabilities is capped but your costs keep going up and the government does not help you, fundamentals will not look so good. How about the situation today? Well, for one, as you can see here, the global scenario is showing a sugar shortage, around 5 million tons to be exact. And recently in October, India announced an export ban on their sugars. Now, if you didn't know, the current Madani government is really into food security. They want Malaysians to produce their own agricultural products, their own food, and sugar is one of them. Speaking of food security, our friends at Do It did a video on rice, Bernas. Go check it out. And with the export ban, with the shortage in the world that's happening, with MSM's deteriorating fundamentals, the government needs to help them. Otherwise, MSM might have to stop production. After all, why would MSM keep producing sugar at a loss? And imagine what it would look like on the Madani government when people whose business or livelihood depends on the consumption of sugar can't have access to sugar anymore. Now, one simple solution to all of this problem is to float the price of sugar. In other words, to have no ceiling at all. That will immediately push the current 2 ringgit 85 cents price ceiling to roughly 5 to 5.50 per kilo. And based on my estimation, with this, MSM can make roughly pre-tax between 850 million to 1 billion ringgit every year. Now, for all you nerds out there who want to know how I arrived at this number, here are some of the assumptions. Reason number one, why I think the float makes sense is because it'll be good for investors. All of a sudden, based on the current market cap and share price, the price to earnings would be 1 or 1.1 times. And this gives it a multi-bagger opportunity. Number two, with that kind of pre-tax profits, MSM can actually pay the government close to 250 million ringgit. And reason number three, a lot of the additional profits can be used to reinvest into more plants, which helps with Malaysia's food security, and repair existing or improve existing ones like the Johor one, where they face quite a bit of problems over the past 2 to 3 years, as you can see here. So if the solution is so simple, why not just float the price? Even after we float it, we'll just be around our neighbor's pricing, which is Indonesia, which is, by most estimates, a poorer country. So we definitely can afford. Plus, sugar doesn't really affect our cost of living that much. Let me ask you a question. When you order your kopi with no sugar, kosong, does the store owner or the coffee maker reduce his price? What does that tell you? It tells you that sugar is very little as a percentage of the total cost of that cup of coffee. The reason why lifting the price ceiling is not a viable solution is because of its political sensitivity. Ultimately, if you allow the price to float, that is a doubling. That's a 100% increase of the price, give or take. Now imagine a newspaper headline saying that the price of sugar is up 100% in the first year of the Madani government. How will that look on the current government? Life, unfortunately, is not just about mathematics. So, what is the solution then? So, instead of allowing a price float, the government recently announced that they will subsidize 1 ringgit per kg, capped at 24,000 metric tons per month for the month of November and December, and, although it's not announced, potentially for the rest of 2024. This will translate into an additional 288 million ringgit per year to MSM, which will flow straight to the bottom line. This will pretty much also cover a lot of the losses that they are currently incurring. So to investors, it's pretty much like a floating price mechanism, but the taxpayers are paying them. If it continues into 2024, this will most likely make MSM profitable, possibly as profitable as their 2016 numbers. And with the Johor plant seemingly improving, that might be the second catalyst or engine. What do I think about all of this? Well, the truth is the current subsidy is a long time coming. The company will be somewhat free from the policies of previous governments. They've been struggling financially, and this will be much needed help for the company. And to use an industry jargon, the profits will see a normalization. In other words, it seems like the company is going back at a slower pace to the Robert Kuok days. And in my view, it will also not cost the government that much money. How much is 288 million ringgit a year when our government's expenditure every year is around 300 billion ringgit? By the way, guys, I forgot to add in the video that I think this subsidy is really rational. And I think the key thing here is that there is no chance of some sort of private entrepreneur profiteering from a national asset like MSM. And as you can see by now, MSM is incredibly important for Malaysia's food security. Helping out the sugar industry will really grow the nation's assets. But that's just my views. Tell me what you think in the comments. And thanks for watching the video.